Alright, so if you are somebody who watches my channel on a consistent basis, then you've probably already noticed the gigantic wall of propaganda posters that I have in my background in every single one of my videos. Now, if you look a little bit closer, you'll see this one down here, which is specifically centered around Havana syndrome, okay? You got the little postcard, it says greetings from Havana, and then you have this little secret microwave ray gun that, Cuba apparently invented, or Russia invented, whichever narrative you want to go with, that is sending these directed energy beams over to a CIA agent to basically give them poopy pants or a headache or nausea or whatever other made-up symptom that they have created in this circumstance. So basically the reason why I have that poster up and why I feel more justified than ever in having that up is because Havana syndrome is not actually a real thing, okay? The CIA has now officially come out and just basically said, yeah, we made that shit up, okay? So I want to read to you guys from this article, and then we'll kind of, touch into the entire saga of this Havana syndrome nonsense. So they say here from NBC News, CIA says Havana syndrome is not the result of a sustained campaign by a hostile foreign power. So let's just get straight exactly what the claim originally was from the CIA and even more broadly from our Congress, as we're going to get to here, and from the State Department. They were basically saying that Cuba, the Cuban government, in coordination with other, scary evil governments around the world, maybe it's China, maybe it's Russia, maybe it's, I don't know, Venezuela, throw any names out there that you want to, that there was some coordination of these governments that were creating a super weapon that the US government didn't understand how it worked or if it even existed, but they had this secret super weapon, right, that was apparently, according to the original testimonies, was some sort of a microwave ray gun that they would shoot directed energy beams at CIA agents and diplomats and basically give them like headaches and nausea, etc. Okay, so it was basically the most ridiculous claim that you could ever think of at face value, okay? It was clearly part of just continuing this Red Scare narrative that the CIA has been operating with since basically World War II, okay? So it was very clear that it was fake from the beginning, that it was at least not as they were characterizing it from the beginning, which is exactly why I've been able to have this poster up in the back of my videos even before the CIA has come out and admit this, okay? So let's just go ahead and get into some of the details to explore exactly how ridiculous this entire process was. So they say in a new intelligence assessment, the CIA has ruled out that the mysterious symptoms known as Havana syndrome are the result of a sustained global campaign by a hostile power aimed at hundreds of US diplomats and spies, 6 people briefed with the matter told NBC News. And they say that in about 24 cases, the agency cannot rule out foreign involvement, including many of the cases that originated at the US Embassy in Havana beginning in 2016. And they say another group of cases is considered unresolved, but in hundreds of other cases of possible symptoms, the agency has found plausible alternative explanations, the sources said. So in other words, they basically got a bunch of US diplomats and CIA agents to create this narrative in their mind and freak themselves out that if they ever go to Cuba or Russia or China or any of these other governments or countries rather, that they are going to be, anticipating getting slapped with the secret ray gun that they have at their disposal, and that any symptoms, any illness, whether it's a mild cold or whether they went out and got drunk that night and had a mild hangover the next day, to take those symptoms and blame Havana syndrome. Take those symptoms and report them as if they are all part of some coordinated campaign against the CIA on a global scale. Okay, so again, just completely ridiculous. And as they say, the overwhelming majority of the cases that we're talking about here have very basic, plausible explanations. Okay, and some of them are actually pretty hilarious, and we're going to get to a couple other of the a couple specific examples of some of those other examples. But again, they're saying here that they cannot rule out foreign involvement for a couple dozen of the cases. Okay, that just means that they're a little bit embarrassed and they want to pretend like there's still some chance that the original narrative was actually true. But they continue here saying that the CIA declined to comment, of course, and the idea that widespread brain injury symptoms have been caused by Russia or another foreign power targeting Americans around the world, either to harm them or to collect intelligence, has been deemed unfounded. Okay, so again, basically, it was just part of this continuing Red Scare propaganda that the CIA has been lying about and justifying for decades and decades and decades. And again, okay, this is a corporate media outlet that will regurgitate whatever the CIA wants them to on a very regular basis. This is an article from NBC News themselves, who were literally reporting on Havana syndrome, taking the CIA at their word previously, as many other outlets were, that we're going to get to here in a second. But they basically just took the CIA at their word and pretended as if this was a real thing without any actual evidence or justification whatsoever. So here's from just a year ago, or a couple years ago, back in December of 2020, Havana syndrome likely caused by pulsed microwave energy, government study finds. So again, here is just corporate media regurgitating whatever this random government study found that was completely not based in any evidence whatsoever. In fact, the actual thing that they are talking about here, like these specifically pulsed microwave energy things, plenty of scientists have come out and said that it's not even like physically possible, okay? So, I mean, we can look at this. Claims of microwave attacks are scientifically implausible. There's little evidence for an unknown weapon behind Havana syndrome. There was no real actual evidence that was put forward to justify the existence of the type of weapon that news outlets like NBC News and even the New York Times, etc., just regurgitated and put out there as if they were real, okay? It was just a completely made up CIA narrative. So again, here from the New York Times, microwave weapons are the prime suspect in the ills of U.S. embassy workers. Doctors and scientists say microwave strikes have caused sonic delusions and very real brain damage among embassy staff and family members. So they were saying that the microwave energy weapon that is scientifically implausible, they were saying that was the most likely cause. They were saying that that was the prime suspect of the ills. And it turns out, we later find out, that the actual causes of a lot of these symptoms, the very basic plausible explanations for them, are things like fucking crickets, okay? We literally saw from a leaked internal government document, okay, that they said that the most likely cause for plenty of the cases from Cuba was a species of cricket in Cuba. Okay, so let's just go ahead and look at this leaked executive summary finding here of the scientific analysis. They say, we believe the recorded sounds, they're talking about sounds that were recorded in Cuba, are mechanical or biological in origin rather than electronic. The most likely source is the Indies short-tailed cricket. Okay, so CIA agents going to Cuba expecting that they're going to get attacked by some secret ray gun, they start to have like annoying headaches or whatever because of crickets, all right, and the sound that crickets are making, and then they decide, oh, I must have gotten hit by the secret, advanced, highly scientific, implausible super weapon, and so instead of blaming the crickets, they end up blaming like the Cuban government and some global conspiracy that's attacking CIA agents. So again, it's just completely ridiculous. It was the stupidest thing from the get-go, okay? It was very obvious from the beginning that this was just a made-up narrative the CIA was pushing, and it actually worked. I mean, you can see how easily our government officials fell for this and how quick they were to believe the CIA at face value, because we literally had the House pass a bill to compensate victims of Havana syndrome. So, okay, this passed by a 427-0 vote, okay? 0 people voted against this bill in the House. Now listen, I'm somebody who believes in universal healthcare, and so I believe that no matter what it is, and it seems like a large degree of the origins of the actual symptoms that people are feeling, because I'm not even saying that, you know, the symptoms themselves are not necessarily real, but I'm saying they were not caused by a microwave ray gun that was built by the Cuban or Russian government, okay? That's what I'm saying. Now, there is evidence that a lot of these symptoms that CIA agents and diplomats have been feeling are part of like I don't know the exact specific scientific word that they use for it, but like psychogenic results, basically. So mass psychosis as an event, right? So basically they are tricking their own brains into believing that they are having a lot of these symptoms that they aren't necessarily happening, and it's part of this entire process of the narrative that the CIA has been crafting, where the CIA agents, when they're deployed to Cuba or Russia or whatever other government they're trying to go and spy on, they are expecting to be hit by this non-existent ray gun, and so whenever they have symptoms, it spirals in their own brains, and then they create this entire narrative that, oh, we're being attacked or something, instead of it being something like crickets, or instead of it being the product of their own minds and the products of their own delusions and fear, basically, that exacerbates those types of symptoms. But again, 427-0 to compensate the victims of a made-up thing, okay? And meanwhile, this same government, we can't even get a floor vote on Medicare for all, okay? We can't even pass Medicare having the ability to negotiate drug prices for average Americans. So average Americans can't even afford the prescription drugs to keep themselves alive on a regular basis. People are having to ration insulin, and these motherfuckers are passing unanimous bills for a made-up CIA illness. Okay, so listen, at the end of the day, this is something that we completely anticipated. We knew that this was sort of fake in the way that the CIA was putting it forward. It's very obviously just a continued narrative of this Red Scare propaganda that the CIA has been pushing for decades and decades. This is exactly their MO. But at the end of the day, it is completely ridiculous that that's the type of narrative that they were trying to push from the beginning. But at the end of the day, they're giving out handouts to these CIA agents for a fake illness that was crafted in their own minds. And meanwhile, we can't even get basic necessities for the American people. So it's just, mostly it's just a story on how completely bought and controlled corporate media is for these intelligence agencies, and how they'll just regurgitate anything that they tell them as if it's 100% true. And also how our government just listens to whatever these intel communities that have been consistently wrong and consistently lied for decades and decades, they just still trust them at face value. It's just completely fucking ridiculous.